So today we are welcoming James to our Inner Being, Seeking Our Inner Being project. Thank you for having accepted our invitation for the interview.
It's a pleasure to share, and I just hope it comes out all right, and see how it goes.
Sure. So James, you have quite a big background of writing, of editing, of healing also. So are you in touch with your psychic being? And if yes, how does it manifest in your day-to-day life?
It's all about connecting with the mother for me. It's entirely that. So when I'm feeling her presence, when I'm feeling her guidance, when I'm feeling her love and her support, then I'm in touch with my psychic being. At least I'm in touch with my inner being. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there are different words we can put on it. I mean,
the psychic being is a big thing to get to.
Yeah.
You know, to realize. The psychic presence is mother's presence for me. You know, right. It's as simple as that. And when I feel that presence, I feel so in touch with life and progress and beauty, and it's a wonderful experience, you know. And yeah.
Has this always been like this, or were there specific moments, experiences in your life that led you to this presence you're feeling today?
Yeah, I've been in India for 25 years. So there was quite a long episode before I came to India. And quite a long episode of what people would regard as catastrophe and affliction. I had a cerebral hemorrhage when I was 21, when I was traveling in Australia. That took me out of circulation for quite a long time. I was in a coma for 2.5 weeks, and it was pretty much touch and go. I was going to continue living. But I came back, and I didn't read the signals. Perhaps I was too immature to read the signals. I don't know. Immediately immersed myself in preparing myself to undertake a professional life, to earn a living, to become self-sustainable, to be independent. That took some time, but eventually I started working in London, and I worked in London for 16 years. Suddenly, after 16 years, I had this very strong inner calling to come here.
To come to Pondicherry.
To come to India, not specifically Pondicherry, but eventually the focus was on Pondicherry after several visits to other people, other divine beings, you know. So I spread myself around a bit initially, and when I came to India, I spread myself around. But I did spend 3 weeks in Pondicherry, convinced me that was the place that I had to do my work. That was the place where I had to basically live the rest of my life.
Right.
So yeah, so I took a ship to India, actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was a cargo ship.
It's a long trip.
Yeah, cargo ship is described in that, but
yeah, okay.
I took a cargo ship, and I was at sea for about a month, which gave me quite a lot of time to disconnect with what I was going from. Got myself together and settled here.
So you came from a totally professional background and into a spiritual world somehow, no? Is that the transition that you made there, or did that happen before?
I always had that. There's always quite a strong mystical element in me, because I was educated in a Roman Catholic school, actually in a monastery, in the West Country of England, and that was quite a strange experience. But there were quite strong undercurrents of suppression I had to face, and things like that the private school system in England often provides. But it did have that sort of devotion and that mystical element, which opened me up a little bit.
Right. Which was already there very
Yeah,
early, yeah?
and then as soon as I came to India, I was like, sort of felt a great deal of expansion in my being. It was the best decision I ever made. I didn't have any inoculations. I didn't have any, took no precautions at all. Just came here and trusted the divine grace to look after me.
Right.
And eventually I found the divine grace in the mother herself in Pondicherry, and that's where I've been ever since.
Yeah. Have there any tangible experiences that you've lived with the contact of the mother, when you were in touch with the mother, when you felt her presence?
Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to relate to our viewers?
Yeah, there's quite a few of those.
Yeah. Please.
But there's one thing that calls to mind is a dream I had.
Right.
When I was quite early in my tenure, I was staying at Park Guest House. I just had lunch at the dining hall, the ashram dining hall, and occasionally I used to lie down after lunch and have a bit of a snooze. And this time when I went to sleep, I had a very, very vivid dream. And in that dream, I was very much with the mother. I could see her physical form in her more youthful days.
Right.
And she was teaching me to fly.
Wow.
She was teaching me to fly, and so we flew. I was following her slipstream, as it were. And we went up most beautiful places and up beyond skyscrapers and buildings and things like that. So we were over an urban environment, okay? And then suddenly I looked at the mother and she looked at me and she went, which means we're going down. So I followed her down, and we went down sort of these dark alleyways, and she found this rather dismal and dingy looking basement, which was very dark and very obscure.
Yeah.
And she said to me, "This is where I want you to work."
Wow.
And it was such a clear signal to me, such a clear, definitive instruction. And I guess that's what I've been doing for the rest of my life, working on this basement. It's not necessarily just the physical consciousness, it's the whole entity of the lower nature, and trying to uplift it and trying to merge it with the psychic, merge it with the psychic influence. So yeah.
So it's been clearly given your mission there from the mother.
I had other dreams as well, but that's the clearest one.
That's the one that stands
that
out.
really was a turning point in my life.
Yeah.
I can still remember it very vividly to this day.
Right.
And flying was a beautiful experience, but touching the ground wasn't quite so nice.
Yeah.
But there we are. We have to work on that.
Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful. Would you like to add another one of your experiences, or do you feel this one kind of is the center?
There was another dream I had,
which
wasn't quite so vivid, but it was also very, very intense. And this, actually I had two dreams. The first dream was when I was in London. I was transported to London again, and I was wearing my suit and stuff like that. I had my briefcase. I was returning to another weekend at home, in my flat in London, and I was quite depressed, and I was thinking, oh, what am I doing here, And I was surrounded by all these commuters with briefcases and stuff like that, and I suddenly threw the briefcase up into the air and put my arms right up in the air and just screamed, "Mother."
Wow.
And that was about 5 o'clock in the morning when I was dreaming this, so I was coming to the end of my sleep in any case. But what she did is she picked me up by my coattail, by my neck, and just lifted me off the ground. And suddenly, snap, I was awake. So that was very clear.
Yeah. Wow. So these are very deep experiences you're having there through your dreams.
Yeah,
mainly, right?
and
your dream world.
That's right. It was actually the initial phase when I was staying in Park Guest House. I was in Park Guest House for 6 years. Okay. And when I was staying there, I used to have so many dreams, so many clear dreams. And I used to get help in interpreting them with my friend. And that was a very good experience. So many, but ever since then, I've never really had that sort of sense of, the dreams have not evaporated, but they're not quite so clear. They're more hazy.
Right.
So it means that maybe it means that the work has to be done to clarify my being. You know?
Yeah.
Because it's not quite so clear as it used to be. But I think I've moved a little bit onward since the way I used to be.
Yeah.
But the dreams haven't come, which perplexes me a little bit, but that's fine.
Yeah, and you have a full recollection of them, right? And you can still remember them vividly, I suppose. I mean, the way you're relating them, it's really like it happened.
Yeah.
Kind of, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's beautiful experiences. What would be your practices in order to remain in this presence of your inner being already towards your quest of the psychic being or the mother? Do you have any particular practices that you could share?
I do indeed. Yeah, I'd love to share, actually. This came to me quite recently as well, this particular practice. I was just about to facilitate a workshop. We do a lot of online workshops and programs and courses at Nama. And I was just about to facilitate a workshop. The workshop was Feel the Mother's Presence Always. And just as I was sitting down for meditation in the morning, it came to me. I don't think it's particularly unique, this practice. I'm sure it isn't unique, but it seemed to resonate very clearly with me. And it was, for me, it's a way of it gives me the opportunity. Gives me the opportunity to constantly stay in touch with her presence, constantly stay in touch with the psychic influence. Perhaps I can share it.
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
please. Sure, lots of people would be interested and be able to recognize themselves in it.
Obviously, close my eyes. And I just observe the breath. Nothing particularly unique in that. Just observing the contours and movements of the breath. Simple as that. And it's good to pick up on the gaps between the breath, between the in-breath and the out-breath. Because what you find is that these gaps get filled with like a special presence. So just observing where the breath comes from. It's the natural breath. We don't try and change it. it will change of its own volition. It will just change naturally, slow down. Just observing the breath. And what we do when we're established in the breath, when we're at one with the breath, we internally invoke the Mother's presence. Notice the gaps between the calling. Just feel her presence. Immediately responding, immediately saturating our whole being. Just feel her presence as you invoke her name. And every time you invoke her name, with all your consciousness, with all your aspiration, with all your love, she responds always. It's a very immediate change and shift this particular practice produces. Very quick. And this practice doesn't have to be done with our eyes closed. Doesn't have to be done without looking at her image or her photograph. It could be done in a waking state, because it is our surface being that needs to be transformed. Our surface nature, which arises when we're in action, when we're at work, sometimes, when we're in activity, or in conversation, or in company, or when we're doing our duties. It's this surface nature that intervenes continuously. And if we can keep this japa, because it is a japa, going all the time, it becomes a part of you. It becomes your defining influence in life. It just repeats itself. This is what Sri Aurobindo often said, is the japa, the mantra. When it is established in the being, just automatically repeats itself. And when one gets to that stage, and I'm not saying I have, there's always this constant presence inside you, which doesn't need to be screened out, which doesn't need to be hidden away from. So I find this particular practice very helpful.
Yeah.
Because it gives me the opportunity. Gives me I don't always take it, but gives me the opportunity to always be in her presence, which is basically what
connected.
Yeah, this is the psychic being, this is the inner being.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you experience any challenges, pitfalls on your path?
Yes.
Towards, because you were saying you not always manage to maintain this connection, this presence, and what would throw you out of it? Just out of
desire.
Sorry?
Desire.
Desire.
Surface mind. Constant inner dialogue from the surface mind. That's probably my biggest.
Constant inner dialogue, yeah.
And I believe this practice, if it's taken, I have faith that this practice, when it's taken to its ultimate conclusion, will overcome all these things. And actually, Mother said herself that japa is very, very good at controlling the physical mind.
Yeah.
Which is partly responsible for all these repetitive thoughts. But chiefly responsible for the
Mm.
repetitive thoughts and
Mm-mm.
agitations that go on inside us.
Right, yeah.
So I think also surrender as well,
Mm.
complete surrender.
Mm.
Um, we just had a workshop on tapasya and surrender.
Mm.
It's very interesting to see how the two dovetail each other in terms of their results
Mm.
and their practice, you know, and they go very, very beautifully together. So the tapasya isn't over yet for me, certainly not. But there's no reason why the surrender can't start
Mm.
simultaneously, and so that's what I suggest people should do.
Mm.
Is they should have this attitude of surrender while they are exerting all this physical, this tremendous effort to overcome the obstacles that are on the path.
Mm. Yeah, well, great advice. Thank you. Insights or experiences you'd like to share before we close this interview? We also have your book here that you wrote, A Torch in the Dark, right? Maybe you'd like to say a few words about this. I don't know, something that you would like to conclude on?
Maybe I could. I don't know. It was written very quickly. It was only written in 6 weeks, the book, because it was written in lockdown,
Okay.
2020. We were all sort of incarcerated in our houses, weren't we? For 6 weeks, we couldn't go out.
Yeah.
Which was a fantastic opportunity for me to write a book,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So essentially, I wrote the book in 6 weeks, and I had very good, kind guidance from a couple of people like Dr. Lokpandi, and yes, and without them, wouldn't have. And also, I had wonderful help from Vivachana in formulating the book. So it was substantially written in 6 weeks. I was writing a chapter a day with 2 fingers, you know, because my typing isn't up to much. So I don't. It was a very powerful experience for me. I felt very supported and in the process, and very connected when I was writing this book, as I do whenever I write now, actually.
Okay.
You know, which is a great outlet for me, actually. A means of expression. Yes, I find that very therapeutic.
Yeah, so that could be another way, right, to express oneself.
Sure.
Writing down or.
Yeah, I keep a journal. At least I try to, but I'm not always regular and I'm not as assiduous in the process as many other people are. I just write it when I feel called, you know. But I just think that in integral yoga, as long as one aspires for the presence and the guidance of the mother and works on it, and works on it with all sincerity and all devotion and love, and you'll get to the goal.
Right.
It may not be this lifetime, but you'll get to it.
Yeah.
Once you've been called, you have to respond to that call. You have to respond to that call. And when you respond to that call, you will stay on the path. Because I did have another dream once, actually.
Right.
And this was I was going across a mountain range, and there was this guy that overtook me on the path. He was taking a lot of shortcuts and everything like that. But what happened to him is he fell off the cliff, because he was taking shortcuts, and he wasn't doing it very consciously, and I wasn't saying I was doing it consciously, but I was much slower, and I stayed on the path, and I'm still on it to this day.
Great. Well, I think that was a beautiful way to conclude our dialogue.
Thank you, Svenja.
Thank you so much for having it. coming here and
Namaste.
joining us. Thank you.